In the spring of 2013, on a warm, sunny afternoon, I was working in a government hospital in Dhaka, Bangladesh. I was a fellow in a program that promoted foreign exchange physicians to understand how do we deliver surgical care in low-resource settings. As I was preparing to leave for home, I received a call. The caller was a friend of mine from the local Red Cross committee, and normally a very chatty, upbeat guy. He sounded very anxious. He informed me that minutes earlier, the country had faced the largest industrial disaster in its history, and asked me if I was available immediately. The accident had happened in Shawar, which is a town right outside the capital city of Dhaka. And within minutes, it had killed thousands of people under the cement, which couldn't sustain from the vibrations of the stitching machines. You see, medical care has always been an enterprise of individualism. From the very beginning, we're taught that we have to be the central protagonist in every single healthcare episode. And it suited my personality well. From the very beginning, I was very comfortable working on my own. As a child, I used to play on my own, and that worried my mother a lot. So she used to be very concerned about my future. But I found a future. In surgery, you don't have to deal with people. You have to work with one person at a time, and it was working fine. But after that call, things changed, because I was suddenly in charge of thousands of patients at once. So I left for Shawar, and the first thing that I experienced was this noxious smell. I recognized this smell. It was rusty, it was metallic. It burns your nose if you smell it for too long. It was the smell of dried blood. And I remembered it from my anatomy labs. When I reached there, I thought I would be greeted by a medical coordinator who would help me in triaging patients, who would provide me with support staff. But I found nothing of that sort. I found young individuals using hammers and plastic ropes to pull out people from the cement rubble. And there I was, thinking, if I take care of one person at a time, I would never be able to save any life here. So I went and tried to train these volunteers in simple surgical techniques, such as how to control bleeding. How do you stabilize a fracture with sticks or ribbons or whatever? And how do you control for breathing problems? In global health, the narrative has always been about this heroic surgeon who flies from above and slays the dragon single-handedly. But that's not the solution. Around the world, 5 billion people do not have access to safe and affordable surgical care. 73% of people go bankrupt trying to pay for surgical services. Hours later, we found this one individual. We pulled him out of the rubble, and he was presumed dead. I tried to check his carotid pulse, and it seemed he was alive. And so I assembled my compatriots and tried to help this individual. One of them controlled the bleeding using simple first aid gauze. One of them stabilized a fracture in the arm using ribbons and just sticks. And I was stitching up the open wounds. On that day, I realized the narrative of individualism is not going to work. It would never suffice the intractable problems we have in global health. While I stood there with cement on my face, squatting on a cement rubble, slowly but steadily, we saw the color stabilize on the face of that person, and his heart rate started to climb up again. It was then I realized that it would never be enough. One person would never be enough to address these challenges. Collectivism had triumphed individualism. And slowly, he started breathing again. And together, we saved that life. Thank you.